Hey guys, this is Mr. H. Hey, I'm going to do the same thing I did in my previous video. I'm going to look at the June 2024 Algebra 1 Regents exam. And in particular, I'm going to look at the constructed responses questions and the ones that deal with quadratics. And I'm going to show you basically how you can use the quadratic formula and your graphing calculator to hopefully easily answer some of those questions. So menu 61 is for zeros. Menu 62 is for minimums. Menu 64 is for intersections. Let's go. All right, so the very first one, this is question number 29. They want us to complete the square to determine the exact values. Now, I didn't mention this in the last video. I forgot to point this out. But whenever you see exact, that means they don't want decimals. They don't want decimals. They especially don't want irrational numbers. So they want you to leave the square root as a square root if it's not a perfect square. All right. So let me show you what you're doing. So the first thing we're going to do, we're not going to do this using completing a square. We're just going to use the quadratic formula. So A is going to be 1, B is going to be 10, and C is going to be a negative 30. Of course, you're just going to put all of that stuff in. This is going to be a negative parentheses 10 plus or minus, and then you're going to have 10 squared minus 4 times 1 times a negative 30 over 2 times 1. Now, you got to put this to show the test makers that you know how to use the quadratic formula. But once you've done that, we're just going to graph it. So let's get the calculator and go. All right, so we're going to enter in that quadratic. So it's going to be x squared plus 10x minus 30. Press enter. Now we want the minimum. So I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to do menu 44, and I'm going to put it here. One more. All right, so there we go. So this is now I'm going to move this out of the way so we can find the minimum. So I'm going to do menu 62, min, and then I'm going to come here. And it tells me that the minimum is a negative 5, a negative 55. So once we got that, since these are integers, we're pretty much done. So I'm going to go to my paper or iPad, and I'm going to write, let me put this in red. It's going to be x equals a negative 5. That's the axis of symmetry, plus or minus the square root of the positive y coordinate. So it's going to be 55. That's your answer. That's it. So if you do this, this is 1 point. If you do this, this is the second point. And that's it, guys. That's it. You don't need to do anything else. All right, so now let's go to the next one. Now this one is, even though this one doesn't require the quadratic formula, I just wanted you to see, they want you to state the coordinates of every solution. So basically, you're going to enter these two functions, the quadratic as one function, the linear function as one function, and then you're going to use menu 64, and you're going to get those points. They want the x and the y, and there's probably 2 intersections, so that's all they want. Now, I'm not going to go through and actually do this. I can tell you it's going to look something like this and something like this, all right? So you're going to be looking for this point, going to be looking for that point, and you need the x and y coordinates. That's what they want you to do. Again, we could take this question, we could make it into a quadratic equation, and then we could use the quadratic formula, but that's doing way more than you need to do. In this case, I would just say menu 64, graph it. All right, let's go. All right, so now here's the last one from the June exam. Now, this was the first time that they've actually asked the students to be able to simplify radicals. So I'm going to show you what you need to do. Now pay attention because this one is going to have one extra step. So again, first thing you're going to do is you're going to use A is 3, B is a negative 10, C is a positive 5, and then you're just going to go and you're going to do the quadratic formula. So I know you know how to do that, so I'm not going to waste any time on that. I'm going to go and I'm going to show you how to graph it. And we're going to be looking for the minimum, just like we were before. So I'm going to do this. And then now, here's the difference. When you're graphing these, if you want the calculator to simplify it, then you have to make it into a stack fraction if the leading coefficient is not a 1. Let me say that again. So if you have a quadratic and the leading coefficient is not a 1, you're going to have to divide by the leading coefficient in order to make it a 1. So let me show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to make this a stack fraction, and then I'm going to put in 3x squared, boom, 3x squared minus 10x plus 5. All right, so that is what you put in. Whoops, thank you. This is supposed to be a 3 down here, because we want to divide by the leading coefficient, because we want our graph to have a leading coefficient of 1. So now all I'm going to do is press enter. Now here is my answer right here. I just need the minimum. So I'm going to go menu 62, start on the left, pull it to the right. Now all I need to do, just like I did in the other video, is I'm going to take this x coordinate, make it into a fraction. I'm going to take the positive of this y coordinate, make it into a fraction, and then I'm going to take the square root of it, and that's going to be my answer. So let's do that. So 1.6666, okay, let me show you how to do that. We're going to go here, going to go to the calculate, and then we're just going to put in put in a bunch of sixes. I don't know how many to put. I usually go over to the dock, and then I do menu 22. And then I press enter. So it's going to be 5 over 3. So my answer is going to be x equals 5 over 3 plus or minus. Now I got to do the same thing for the y coordinate. It's 1.11111. So I'm going to go here, and that's what I'm going to put in. 1.1111111. Put a bunch of ones, and then do menu 22. Press enter. It's going to be 10 over 9. So this is going to be, let's go and finish this up. So we're going to take the y coordinate, and we're going to take the square root of the top and the square root of the bottom. Now, if you know your perfect squares, you know that 9 is a perfect square, and the square root of 9 is 3. Now, if you don't know your perfect squares, just take the square root of the top, square root of 10, you'll see it's irrational. Then take the square root of the bottom, and you'll see that it is a rational number. So that means we can simplify this. So I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to replace it with a 3. And that is our simplified radical, and we don't have to do anything else. You should check this to make sure you can't simplify it any further, but generally, when you are given something like this, when you find the minimum, it would be simplified for you. But make sure, if the leading coefficient is not a 3, that's what you've got to divide by, and when you graph it, so it'll be this. Remember, this is what you need to graph. You're going to put the quadratic equation, and then you divide it by the leading coefficient, and then find the minimum. That should be it. I think that's the last one for this one. Yep, this is from the next one. All right, so that's it, guys. I hope this has been helpful. The one thing I need you guys to see is that quadratic formula is very important, but also graphing and finding the minimums, menu 62 or using menu 64. The next video, I'm going to use menu 61. That's used a little sparingly, but that's what we're doing. All right, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to post this.